Here's a real story about a real patient of mine. Details obviously changed to protect their privacy, but it's about a woman's pain that was consistently discounted and blamed on her weight, on her gender, unfair reasons. This case is also illuminating many of the problems that exist within our healthcare system. So I'm gonna leave you off with 3 actionable steps that you can take to improve your healthcare relationship with your doctor. Let's get started. Becky is a 58-year-old female that has a good relationship with the healthcare system. She has a primary doctor, she has an urgent care center near her home that she frequents, and in general considers herself to be quite healthy. Over the last few months, Becky started experiencing more joint pains and more fatigue, so Becky made an appointment to see her primary care doctor. In going in for the visit, the primary care doctor asked some questions, conducted a thorough physical exam, and came up with a plan. But the plan followed the assessment. And the assessment was that Becky, being a 58-year-old female, was in her postmenopausal state, meaning that she went through menopause, is experiencing hormonal changes. Also happens to have a BMI of 29, which puts her into the overweight category. Therefore, the doctor's conclusion was Becky, being slightly overweight, having this hormonal change due to being postmenopausal, is experiencing these joint aches and fatigue due to that. Not an actual medical condition that can be treated with a specific medication, surgery, or therapy. So the doctor's recommendation was to lose weight, to focus on herself, to do some reading, meditation, mindfulness, all things that I think most people would see as positive in general. So Becky, being a good patient, went home, started this plan, tried to motivate herself to lose a few pounds, to take some time away from work and go on walks. It wasn't until 2 weeks after that initial visit when Becky woke up and she could barely get out of bed. She was experiencing excruciating pain in her shoulders, in her biceps, in her hips, in her low back. It was so debilitating that she did not want to get out of bed and even go to work. For a person to experience that level of pain and discomfort, it was worrying to her. In fact, Becky's husband urged her to call 911 and said, maybe you're having a stroke. But Becky said, you know what? Let's call our doctor and see what's available. Doctor says they're unavailable for today, but recommends that she head on to her local urgent care. So Becky goes to her local urgent care center. They take a thorough history, they perform a physical, and they don't quite know what's going on. So they order a bunch of blood work, and Becky is not privy to what blood work was ordered. But they told her to take some anti-inflammatories in the meantime until they get the results of that blood work. So they gave her a Toradol injection, which is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medication, similar to ibuprofen or naproxen, but because it's given intramuscularly, it works a little bit quicker. Patients feel like it's a little bit more of a potent medication. So Becky got this injection, she felt a little bit better, she went home. Even though she was still in pain, she wanted to be a good patient. Plus, she had the little voice in her ear of the previous doctor saying this could be related to your weight. She didn't lose the weight that she thought she could. She didn't follow all the mindfulness practices that she set out to. And she started blaming herself, which unfortunately a lot of patients do in situations like this. 3 short days later, she receives a call from the urgent care and they tell her that her blood work has come back and they found that her inflammatory markers were elevated, ESR and CRP. These are non-specific inflammatory markers. So by testing them, we don't make a diagnosis of any specific condition. For us as doctors, if we see that, we start feeling a suspicion of an autoimmune condition where the own body attacks itself, or perhaps a cancerous process, or even an infectious process in some cases. She was very worried about this potential diagnosis. She did have some family history of cancer. And when Becky came in, they told her that, look, they aren't sure exactly what's going on, but they believe that given her joint pain was still there, that she would benefit from a 7-day course of prednisone, which is a steroid that is targeting the inflammation within the body. So they gave her a 7-day course of prednisone. She went home, started taking it. And what do you know? The next morning she wakes up, feels like $1 million. She thinks it's solved. She feels great. Day 2 feels great, day 3 feels great, and so on it goes the rest of the week. She's very happy and she thinks her problem has been solved. But then comes day 10 when she is now 3 days without the steroid and the pain comes back. So Becky, trying to be a good patient, calls the urgent care, makes an appointment. They see her and they explain that they're not sure what's going on and that they like for her to see a rheumatologist, which is a specialist in joint health and autoimmune diseases, and they give her a referral. Becky, again, good patient, goes home, instantly calls, tries to make an appointment. And given this is March 2023, they give her an appointment for December 2023. 9 months. So Becky is sitting there in tears, wondering why she has to wait 9 months while she's in pain, not able to perform life duties, take care of her home, her family, go to work, and just be even somewhat pain-free. So she starts panicking, she starts getting really worried, and she understands that she has to do something else. This is where Becky comes into my office. I saw a very concerned patient, a patient that was given the runaround, no explanation for blood test results. I got a sense that she was probably treated unfairly given the fact that she was carrying some extra weight and the fact that she was postmenopausal. And I have to make a note here that if a doctor says it would be helpful for you to lose weight because your joints are experiencing a heavier burden than if you were to lose weight, that is good advice in many instances. But if they're just jumping to that conclusion without fully examining you, fully understanding what's wrong with you, doing a thorough evaluation, then they may be giving you a misdiagnosis simply due to laziness. I needed to make sure and do the due diligence and check, were the correct blood tests ordered? Were they correctly interpreted? Because honestly, when you're going to an urgent care and you're having multiple doctors take a look at you and there's no continuity, it's very easy for things to slip between the cracks, for things to not get explained, or to even get thoroughly logged. So I requested all the previous lab work that was done in all of these visits, and I found that it was in fact high inflammatory markers. The ESR and CRP were elevated. Something else that was interestingly elevated was something called ANA testing, which is anti-nuclear antibody testing that we do to come to a diagnosis of an autoimmune condition. But ANA testing on its own is not definitive. It doesn't help us understand what autoimmune condition is present. So I needed to really start from scratch and reorder almost all of the lab work, with the exception of things that they've definitely tested, and figure out what exactly is going on. So I reordered all this lab work. I explained to her that she's no longer gonna get the runaround. I'm gonna be on top of this. I did all of the labs, and what did I find out? It was lupus. It wasn't because she was postmenopausal having hormonal changes. It wasn't because she was slightly overweight and carrying that burden on her joints. These were misdiagnoses. And lupus was a misdiagnosis. Not just her inflammatory markers, not just her ANA, but other tests that really signify that a patient is experiencing lupus were also elevated, like the double-stranded DNA antibody. There's actually a scoring system that we use from the American College of Rheumatology that gives scores to certain symptoms that a patient is having, plus points for having certain tests flag positive on their results. And when I added up her points, she fell into the category of definitive positive for lupus. I decided to get her a rheumatology appointment as well. She calls, gets an appointment for January 2024. These wait times are just astronomical. So I called the office and I explained the patient's pain, her situation, the fact that she's in fear that she's gonna be in pain for the rest of her life, and we're able to speed up her appointment to just a week and a half, 2 weeks time. I called her back, I explained everything that was going on, why I was ordering certain tests, what the results showed me, why I wanted a rheumatologist. The patient was very grateful. Just that conversation lowered her pain. And that's not a placebo effect. This is a human survival effect, because when we are nervous, we are scared, we are in a high anxiety state, the body turns up its sensory response. So by having the conversation and calming down her anxiety, we're able to help her pain with the conversation alone. Since then, she's had an appointment with the rheumatologist. The rheumatologist put her on the correct medication. She's doing great, couldn't be happier, and we're able to help this patient out. But what does that mean to you? The 3 takeaways I want to give you from a case like this is all stemming from what you can do to make the encounter better. And look, doctors need to do better, the healthcare system needs to do better, but I want to arm you with some very useful skills. The first is when a doctor gives you a plan, whether it's to take a medication, a surgery, anything, they need to give you at least a working diagnosis. If they don't give you that, you need to ask. You need to ask them to document that working diagnosis. If they don't know what's going on, they should have even a list of potential diagnoses to share with you. Second, ask doctors why they're sending you to a specialist so that A, you're not wasting your time, B, you're not wasting your money, and C, you can formulate good questions and a plan when you actually go see the specialist. And three, this should be common sense, but it's an easy question to miss. When you're sitting with the doctor and the doctor's telling you, here's the plan, here's what you do, never forget to ask the question, what if it doesn't get better? How long should I wait if it doesn't get better? And what red flag symptoms should I be aware of? Those questions will save your life. And if not saving your life, they'll at least make your life a lot easier. When you know the plan, you know what to look out for, you're less anxious, you feel less symptoms. HouseMD says it's never lupus. In this case, it was lupus, but click here to watch some really hilarious takedowns of HouseMD that I did. Click here, check that out, and as always, stay happy and healthy.